Hey, everybody. Welcome to Legends of Philly on PHL 17 Plus. I'm Jason Lee. This episode is part 2 with sports talk radio legend Angelo Cataldi. Angelo, thanks for joining me last week. Thanks for coming back this week. I fooled you twice. I appreciate it.
Well, we negotiated during the break, and Jason has agreed to pay me the same amount for the second show that he did for the first.
Hey,
That was
man,
very, very generous of you.
I'm a big spender. I'm a big spender. No, it's like at the end of the first show, and I knew this would happen. There's still so much to talk about, so much left unsaid. So I appreciate you giving me some more of your time. We talked in the first show about the impact of the schedule. You said you got up at 2:30 in the morning. So
Yep.
how did that impact you? Did that impact your health at all? Did it impact your life at all? I mean, what time were you going to sleep?
I was going to sleep at 6, so I was getting
Wow.
sleep. It wasn't a matter of getting sleep. It was, that's a great question because 4 or 5 years into my career, I really hit a wall, bad wall, and went into a clinical depression, and was off the air for several weeks.
Oh, wow.
And it was
Okay.
touch and go on whether or not I was come back because I was dealing with a lot of stuff then, which therapy later showed me, which was I wasn't sure what my identity was. Was I still a journalist covering teams the way I did for the first 20 years of my career? Or was I now a shock jock on in the morning in WIP at Philadelphia? So there was a period where I was wrestling with that. And fortunately, I got good medical treatment. I learned the power of therapy, and it put me back on the right thing. But yeah, it was a really hard. The other part I didn't know until I retired was that it does take a toll on you to not be in sequence with the rest of the world. And when I got to the end of it, I just went, man, how did I do 33 years of that? Going to bed so early, getting up so early. But you know what? If I had to do it again, I'd do it exactly the same way.
Well, but you're right. It really does take its toll. I know for me. So I get up at 1 o'clock in the morning. All right,
Ah,
to do the news. I walk into the newsroom here at 2, sometimes 2:15. And Angelo, I will tell you, I've been at this station now for over 11 years, and now I just took off a lot of weight. I just took off 34 pounds. I put on 40 pounds. Thank you. I put GLP-1. I put on 40 pounds. I'll
right.
admit, I'll admit it. I put on 40 pounds, and I had to lose 20 pounds to begin with. So it's like you don't realize it's not a normal time to be awake. It's not a normal time to wake up. And
Right.
if you were able to go to sleep at 6 o'clock, which is wonderful. I haven't mastered that in all this time. I'm still going to bed way too late. So the schedule really
Oh.
does. So it really does. It really does mess with you. And like I said to you in the first episode, you look so much more awake. You must feel great too, right?
People say that all the time, and I went, "Wow, they must have really thought I looked awful when I was working."
But you know what? But what I'm curious about is, so if you're going to bed at 6 o'clock, the
Yeah,
games don't start till 7. You're going to
right.
bed before the games even start. Yet to listen to you in the morning, you sounded very well prepared. You sounded like you watched the games. Now, these days it's simple because you can go online and like YouTube will even splice all the highlights for you. But when you started, I mean, what were you like watching VHS tapes in the morning? How did you
Yes.
take me through your prep?
100%. Even, I mean, when I first started, it was like that deck that came up from the machine, and you had to slide in the big tape. You couldn't jump to something. You had to fast forward and hope you hit the right spots.
Right.
It was, it was, but if I had been there 10 or 15 years before VCRs, before that, I don't know how he would have covered it, honestly, because there was no access to tape when you wanted to see it.
Right.
But I tried the other way. I tried, staying up for games and napping in the middle of the day, but it didn't work for me. And the thing that I learned from 4 hours of radio, you gotta be sharp.
Yeah.
You gotta get your sleep. You gotta be ready. You gotta adjust. There's pressure. You're hitting your brakes on time and doing all. There's a lot going through your head. And I couldn't do it without a good night's sleep. So I kind of just worked that way. And I'm not going to lie to you, Jason. Once in a while, I might fake it just a bit, or I would look over at Rhea Like, Rhea, you saw this play they're talking about? Hurry up, get in here, save me.
Hey, it's all smoke and mirrors sometimes, right?
Yeah, it really is.
We've all done that. We've all done that. Um, there's so many things I want to ask you about. Wing Bowl. Okay, we can't let this episode go. We let episode 1 go without talking about Wing Bowl. How did Wing Bowl even begin?
It was Al Morgani's idea. We knew the Eagles were never going to make it to the Super Bowl. We wanted to do something Super Bowl weekend, like the Friday before the Super Bowl. So we just had a wing eating contest one year because at that point, Buffalo was in it every year. They wouldn't win it, but they kept being in it.
Right.
And they were known for their chicken wings. And Anchor Bar has the best chicken wings in the world, supposedly. So we just did it. A couple hundred people showed up in the lobby of a hotel where the prize was a dusty old hibachi. And every year it just got bigger and bigger until it got so big. Our lack of ability to run an event got exposed. So I'd say from the 15th to the 20th, that behind me, that's the actual jersey I wore at the final Wing Bowl.
Oh, that's the last one, 26?
That was the last one. And by that point, we would get to the end of it. Jason, we would go, this was a success. No one died. That was good. But we were getting 20,000 people at 6 o'clock in the morning on a Friday in the middle of winter to see a bunch of fat guys eating chicken wings. So, if you look at it that way, that was miraculous.
That always amazes me. And I've always said, I don't know if that could happen in any other town but Philadelphia.
No,
I don't think. Yeah, I do want to talk more about Wing Bowl. I want to talk about, honestly, one of my all-time favorite TV shows, The Great Sports Debate. We'll talk about that and much more with Angelo Cataldi next on Legends of Philly. And welcome back to Legends of Philly on PHL 17+. I'm Jason Lee. These are conversations with the biggest names in Philly. Angelo Cataldi is with me for part 2 of our conversation. Before the break, Ange, we talked about Wing Bowl. And you mentioned how it started in a hotel, like the Wyndham Franklin Plaza down in Center City. And then, I guess you eventually went to some club on Delaware Avenue. I still call it Delaware Avenue, not Columbus Boulevard. Then it went to
Club Egypt.
And then the Spectrum, and then the Wells Fargo Center, or whatever they were calling it at that point.
Yeah.
How did it grow so much? And were you shocked at how it grew and how quickly it grew?
Yeah, it grew quickly because we began incorporating women into the show.
Yes, you did.
So it wasn't just all these guys eating chicken wings. Somebody had to count the wings. So, why don't we get attractive women? Again, a lot of the stuff we were doing back then, Jason, that was 30-some years ago, would not be acceptable now.
Right.
It was not. It was politically very incorrect. But back then, it was fine. No one seemed to mind it at all. The more women we brought in and the less clothes they wore, the bigger the crowds.
Absolutely.
We suddenly realized that was really the key to the whole thing, was getting attractive women to come at 6 in the morning to the Wells Fargo Center and to celebrate this crazy event. And then it got this reputation. It was a great college thing. So college kids would come, stay up all night and get all drunk and crazy, and then come into the arena. It was none of it was planned. It's like my radio career. Jason, none of this stuff, it all kind of just took on a life of its own. And I just held on tight and rode it to the finish line. That's all I did. I didn't have any of these ideas originally.
Well, whoever came up with the idea, you said it was Al Morgani, right? That was a great,
Al Morganti.
Brilliant idea. Our engineer in here said he went to a few of them. He went to at the Spectrum. He went to a couple. Then when they moved over to the Wells Fargo Center, I can't talk about Wing Bowl without mentioning Big Daddy Graham. I know he always began it with the ceremonial the chicken wing. Now working these hours, I used to listen to Big Daddy Graham all the time on the overnight. Sadly, Ange, the one person I didn't get to hear a lot was you, because we were always working at the same time. But, I always loved and respected your career. But Big Daddy Graham was such a unique talent. And, sadly, he left us way, way, way too soon. I love seeing what Abe is doing over there now. And, not to be cliche, but, he's looking down and he's got to love that. Tell me about Big Daddy Graham, what he meant to you and your relationship with him.
Uh, I can't, it's been a while now since he passed, and it's still fresh.
Yeah.
It's still like, wow, how do we lose that unique personality? He was the life of every party. He
Yep.
loved people. He loved coming into your house. Yeah, he was the kind of guy you would call, and he wouldn't even say hello. Like he would just be in mid-sentence
You're
while he
right.
talked to you. Had no, he would send you,
You're right.
when you get a Christmas card, he would send you his gas bill. That's what Eddie. His actual name was Eddie Gadanis,
Right,
and
right.
he was what I learned from him, because I had the privilege of listening to his amazing overnight show most of the years that I came in to do my show after his, and what I learned from him was the value of entertainment. Tell a funny story,
Yep.
deliver for the people. It's not all, oh my God, are they going to score? Are they going to win the game? A lot of it is, showing your personality and winning people over with a perspective, with a fun look at life. And that's what I learned from him, because he was a stand-up comic and a
Right.
very, very good one. So he had all that entertainment built into his presentation. And then just as a friend, there was nobody like him. He was just one of the truly great human beings you ever meet in a lifetime.
Now, I didn't know him nearly as well as you did, but I had a couple dealings with him, and you'll appreciate this story, Angelo. I'm working a charity event for the Alzheimer's Association, and he was always heavily involved with that because I think his mom had Alzheimer's, so he's
Yes.
there. This is like 2017, April of 2017, give or take, and a couple months from that point, I'm doing my first and so far only stand up. Okay,
Oh,
I did stand up comedy once in my life in like July of 2017. It was a charity thing. There were some TV and radio people. Mike Jarek from Fox 29 was there. Um, Mike Jarek actually said the F bomb like 35 times in his set, and I'm not exaggerating. Anyway, that's not the story. The story is, so I'm at this charity event and I see Big Daddy Graham, and at that point I had never met him. So I introduce myself, and I'm in radio and TV at the time, and I tell him I'm doing this stand up thing. Always wanted to try stand up comedy. I'm always cracking jokes around work. What advice can you give me? And he says to me, your opening joke is key. You need a good opening joke because you got to hook the audience in. And then he gave me a joke to use. It's not one I can repeat here, but he gave me a
no.
joke. He gave me a joke
It,
to, and it
it might
killed.
be the same joke he gave me once. I had to MC. Did it involve my friend Howard Eskin?
It did not. No,
Okay.
I will tell you, it involved a Jewish woman from Cherry Hill, New Jersey. That's all.
Oh no, that is not.
That's all I'm gonna say.
No, that's out. You can't do that anymore.
Actually, you know what? But since you mentioned Howard Eskin, I do want to ask you about him. But I think we got to take a break here, guys. All right, one more break, and then one more segment, Angelo. Then I will finally let you go. I promise. We'll be back with more with Angelo Cataldi on Legends of Philly right after this. Welcome back to Legends of Philly on PHL 17 Plus. I'm Jason Lee. My guest for part 2 of our conversation is the great Angelo Cataldi, sports radio legend. Angelo, you won't say it, but I will. Legend. You know what? Let me ask you this. Throughout our conversations for the previous half hour we did, and throughout this entire conversation so far on part 2, you're very humble. You said over and over again, you're not a legend. You said other people on the show carried you. Where does the humility come from?
All right. Al Morgani, who I worked with for 30 plus years in radio, had a nickname for me. He called me Fraud. Hey, Fraud, what are you doing, Fraud?
That
And
sounds
the
like
fact
Al.
is, all those radio years, that's the way it felt, because I wasn't trained. I had a much higher opinion of what I was doing actual journalism, because it was supposedly like a noble profession. Yelling and screaming into a microphone for all those years was not considered as noble, although it was far more lucrative and a lot more fun. So
Right.
you get a choice, you can be important in what you do, or you can have fun with what you do. And having done both, I prefer the fun part.
Okay, but let me ask you this. you have to at least have an idea of the career that you had, of the impact that you had in Philly. You had to know. I mean, Ray Didinger said it in the foreword of your book that on Monday morning, everybody's like, "What's Angelo going to say about that game?" That's what Eagles fans were thinking. What's Angelo going to say? You had to know that you had risen to that level, right?
Yeah, but was it really that I was that good at it, or was I just one of the first people who did it? That's the question. The argument that you can make today is, well, we were more flamboyant, we were louder, we had stronger opinions, maybe we're even more theatrical, but were we successful because we were good at it, or were we successful because there was no other choice? Other than Eskin and Fredericks, no one had been doing sports talk radio. It was a brand new format, and I just think my timing was fortuitous. I think the best thing that happened to me is I know what I sounded like the first 5 years I did radio. And I could tell you right now, it wouldn't last a week in the current environment. It was just weird. It took a long time to learn on the job, but that's the freedom I had. I got to learn on the job, which today you could never do.
Well,
The
that's true.
format's been in place for generations now, and it's a much harder thing. So I considered myself a serious journalist, and I think I did a good job in that role. As a broadcaster, I just think it was a quirk of luck and timing.
Well, again, you're very humble to say that. We've mentioned Howard Eskin a couple times in this conversation, and I know you and Howard. And I like I don't really know Howard well, but
Yeah.
he's always been very
Yeah.
nice to me, just like you both. You both have been very nice to me. I know you and Howard have had kind of like an up and down relationship, but you were just on his podcast, and when I see the two of you together, even if you're not getting along, you could tell that there's a definite mutual respect there. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, more so than when we worked at the same time. Now that we're both on the back side of this thing, we could see the merits of what we did. I know I could see Howard because Howard was loud and abrasive before anybody else was, and it worked. And he showed all future talk show hosts that'll work. If you do that right, it'll work. You could even, banter with the callers and do some name calling, and all in the concept of wink, wink, it's a show, that kind of thing. So yeah, we've had our ups and downs. It's funny, what got us into trouble, Jason, has just been that there was two old guys together saying how much greater life was when we were in our prime than they are today. Because that's never happened before, right?
Exactly, right.
No old guys ever looked around and went, wow, they're much better today than when we did it.
I got to be honest with you. What you're referring to, the conversation where you talked about how sports radio's evolved, I didn't find anything. I didn't take any issue with that, but that's just me. We only have a few minutes left, and I mentioned earlier that I was going to ask you about the great sports debate. That
Yep.
was appointment viewing for me back on Prism back in the day. I missed Prism a lot. How did that begin? I mean, that was a great show.
Well, in keeping with this whole trend of how my career evolved in broadcasting, I had nothing to do with that either.
Okay.
That was Glenn Mack now.
Right.
He basically got a meeting with Steve Rotfeld, the original producer of the Great Sports Debate. And again, nobody was doing stuff like that. Prism needed programming. They were willing to give us a half hour to put these guys who covered sports in Philadelphia on the air with no broadcast experience and see what happens. And it was quirky, it was weird, it was crazy, but it was fun. None of us, you know what the best part of that was, Jason? Not a one of us at that point thought we had any future in that medium. And as it turned out, all these years later, Al Morgani has had a great career
He has.
in TV,
Yep.
doing Flyers pre and post games. And Jason Stark is in a base. Al and Jason are both in
In their Hall of
the
Fames, yeah.
hockey and baseball halls of fame. And Jason became a superstar on ESPN.
And
Who knew?
and-
The one guy who did not really make it in TV, and it was fair to say that was me, because
Well-
I sucked at it.
Well, hold on. You had a couple of shows after that. You had Angelo and Company,
yes, I had
right?
a bunch of shows, and all of them were nominated for. Let me count it up. Zero Emmys. None. Ever.
All right. Listen, Ange, I have about 90 seconds left, and I want to wrap this up by telling you and telling everybody publicly how kind you've been to me. There were a couple situations, Angelo. I don't know, you probably don't remember, one of which goes back to the early 90s, like 1992, before I even got into broadcasting. I was in college going to Penn State Abington. I wasn't at University Park yet. I went to Penn State Abington, and I had an assignment in an English class to write a letter to somebody in the field that I want to get into. So I wrote a letter to you at WIP. You called me. You called me up at home. I was still living with my parents at the time. You gave me your home number and told me to call you back. You invited me to WIP. You let me interview you. I wrote a paper about you. I got to meet Al and Tony Bruno. And, you know, for a guy who wanted to get into broadcasting, that meant the world. And I don't know if I ever properly thanked you, so I want to do that now. And,
Thank you. Thank you for saying that.
And one more.
Just pay it back. I just want to. You've got to pay, Jason. You got to pay it back.
Believe me.
I'm sure you'll do that now. You'll do it.
I always do. Always do. And one more. And I know I'm going to go late, guys, and I apologize. I'm going to go late. Alert the affiliates. We're going over. Who said that? Ted Koppel, right? So, Angelo, I had a weekly show on PHL 17 for about 2 years called Sports Scene. The show meant the world to me. And when the show got canceled by our former GM, no hard feelings because he gave me the show, and I'm grateful for that. But I took it very hard. So they told me the show was going away when I had like 6 or 7 shows to go. And I was looking toward that last one, and I'm like, if I'm going to go out, I want to go out on top. And I had 2 people that I wanted to get on that last show, and thankfully, they both said yes. One was you, and the other was Bernie Perrant, who, the late, great Bernie Perrant, who I was lucky enough to be kind of friendly with the last few years. But I never thanked you for that because you took what was a very bittersweet moment for me. You know, I'm always excited to go on TV, but I was really sad that the show was going away. But having you on that last show meant a lot. So thank you for that.
Well, that's like jumping on the Titanic just before it sinks, right?
Why do you say that? See, there I go. There's the humility again. Angelo, you know what? We've done 2 shows. We could probably do 2 more, but I've taken up way too much of your time. All I could say is, you know what? I'm a guy who always wanted to go into broadcasting, and you're one of the guys who I looked to when I was a kid. This guy's on the radio every day. This is what I want to do. And Ange, you've been a great influence, and I appreciate you giving me so much time for this show, for the show we just did. And again, I just can't thank you enough. I appreciate it.
Well, it's an honor. It's an honor to be lumped in with people that were far more impactful than I was.
But
thank you, Jason. I'm glad that paying it forward has worked, and hopefully everybody will get that lesson. Pay it forward. Help the next generation. You should do that.
Absolutely. That's great advice. And get Angelo's book. That's better. That's good advice, too. Loud. I assume that you can still get that at like Barnes & Noble and Amazon and all that? All right.
Yep.
All right.
It's everywhere.
I'm getting the wrap signed. Angelo, thank you very much, and I hope we can do this again soon.
Great.
And everybody, thanks for watching Legends of Philly on PHL 17+.